This is a radio broadcast from the Good Boys Gone Bland. Seek shelter now. Hello and welcome to Good Boys Gone Bland, Season 7, Episode 2, The Fifth Element. I'm your co-host, Denali.
I'm your co-host, Brian. I don't know what I'm doing, I'm sorry.
Jace.
Oh. Well, happy to have you, Jace.
Ryan, were you doing the Chris Tucker in the moment? And then,
no,
and then
I don't know what I was
halfway?
doing.
I thought you were doing the Chris Tucker and I did the Bruce Willis.
Okay,
Oh,
I'll be...
that's so much better.
That's a deep... You didn't get it?
Jace was obviously the Bruce Willis in that situation. Okay, we can re-scrub.
I was kind of just going for like a... I just put
Yeah.
like flavor on my name only.
Right, okay. I could be...
It's kind of funny because in real life, I'm the most similar to Bruce Willis's character.
we can
I just
recast.
say one word, but yeah.
Okay, the moment's gone. Fuck it. It's fine. We watched The Fifth Element, guys. Welcome to our show. We watched The Fifth Element for our, I guess we decided off air, the bunker season?
Oh, Ryan, you're going to have to... Ryan's camera looks like it went through an apocalypse.
Yeah.
It adds to the flavor of the season.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks like you're in a bunker, Ryan, with a gray background.
This is my house.
Wow, your room looks like a bunker. God.
It's the desaturation with the camera. It's actually a nice room. This is green, and this is like a textured, almost like a wallpaper thing. It's an old house.
Yeah, for the people at home, it looks like a 70s Rambler converted into a doomsday bunker during like the Reagan years.
Yeah, there
It's
are
a
a lot
nice
of
room.
cans. A lot of cans on the wall for those that can't see. It looks like a lot of
cans of
beanie
beans.
weenies. Those...
You should eat something else too. Like you should work some veggies into your can routine.
I've got a sensitive stomach. I don't process the veggies.
You know, at some point in the season, we need to talk about doomsday preppers.
We do. That's.
I don't think today's a day. I think we should probably
right.
prepare for it, but
We should prep for it. But we can get to that subject. For our newer listeners, we're a marathon podcast. You know, we marathon 10 movies of a similar subject, actor, whatever this season. We're doing apocalypse movies, doomsday.
End of the world, I think, is
End of the world. Yeah.
was my pitch.
We did the core last episode. And this time around, we're doing something a little different. So not the core of the Earth, but more of like, what was it, like an evil black hole thing? Like an evil entity threatening the
Mr.
world.
Shadow.
Mr. Shadow, who apparently is a guy.
Yeah. So eventually we'll get into that, but I have a lot of questions for you guys, and especially Jace, because I know he's seen this movie like 10 times. Probably more than that, let's be real. But I've only seen this movie a couple times.
Yeah.
And I've got a lot of questions, and that's going to come out.
That's fine.
I think we'll have a spicy discussion today, too.
I think so.
About this movie. And this is also a classic, too. Like, this is, I think, one of the first cult movies I think we reviewed so far on this show. Besides, I guess, The Matrix. I guess The Matrix is kind of cult, even though it was huge. But this movie is something I think we all kind of grew up with. It was kind of in our, like, cultural, like, hemisphere. People talk about it a lot. It's iconic. But what you guys... Yeah.
One of our most, and even in our reviews today, might be one of the most divisive movies that we've reviewed, because very cult movie, very campy, but much like the other 90s movies we've revied. Yeah, a few things in it that are just like, you know, okay.
Yeah, and I figured we would also, probably have to delve into that too quite a bit. But before we get into that, Ryan, are you doing okay? Are you feeling all right?
I'm fine. So I went all out today. I acted like I was normal today, but I had a little routine procedure on Thursday. So that's
Totally
a few
routine.
days ago. Yeah, totally routine. The doctor shoved a 6-foot-long camera up my butt, which they tell me happens all the time.
Yeah, it's totally normal. There should be no stigma.
Yes, and that's why. That's partially
yeah.
why I want to talk about it. I haven't told you guys the story of what happened, because what happened. It's so I had a colonoscopy.
Yes.
And just with me in general, nothing routine about a routine procedure like ever So it's always something that goes wrong, and I find a way to turn it into a story.
Right.
But yeah,
it's the Ryan luck.
Yeah. I've had stomach problems for years, and I had my first colonoscopy 10 years ago when I was 18.
Jesus, I forgot about that. Okay, yeah.
So the worst part is the cleanse, which
Yes.
I did in the dorms in my shared bathroom with 20 other dudes.
You had multiple stalls, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was no bueno. It was not fun.
The all-time battle shits champion?
Yes.
You got your plaque on that stall.
We were just playing Madden, and like I was just going back and forth. But yeah, this time I did in the comfort of my own home. Was not. I mean, I think medical science has come up a little bit. The drugs are a little bit more tolerable.
I think just like stronger cleanse.
Well, the time frame is compressed. No, and that's what I mean. Is like the time frame is compressed. I was pooping for less time, but it made up for it in intensity.
What if they gave you a pill that allowed you to evacuate in 10 minutes? Just get all of it out in 10.
No way.
Yeah.
No
Dude,
way.
The
You'd bust a
stomach
valve.
cramps from that would hurt so bad. Yeah, you'd blow an O-ring.
Yeah. Blown over. Jesus. Okay.
But yeah, so getting past the gross stuff, I had the procedure on Thursday, and I'm not good with surgeries or needles or blood or anything like that. Like I just told you guys about, like my arm hurts from where apparently I bruised the IV thing, and that's making me a little nauseous. Yeah. But so I go into this clinic, and it's a colonoscopy clinic. Like that's all they do. Damn. Which was neat. It wasn't just like this freaking hospital and they put me in some room and their doctor was like, "Oh, where does this go?" It was like, this is his only.
Yeah, we do those.
This is his only job. That was a relief, kind of.
That's good.
Yeah, they get me in the back room and they hook me all up and everything like that. And they go into the history. I've been having a lot of dental work recently, and I don't know if these two things are related. What I'm about to say, but like,
okay,
I found that Novocaine and like lidocaine or whatever doesn't really work as well on me. So I have to have about twice as much as everybody else. So normally what happens is it's maybe about 6 months or a year between my dental procedures. And my dentist kind of forgets. And so I remind him. And I say, "Hey, yeah, remember like last time you had to give me a lot. Like I don't process it very well." And he's like, "Oh, well, we'll just start with the base amount. And if you can feel it in the middle of the procedure, we'll just give you some more." That happens every single time. Like they never believe me. And so I told the anesthesiologist, or I guess at this point it was just the nurse, because they're all doping me up, or they're taping me up with the IV stuff.
Doping me up.
Well, I don't know I have no idea at what point they start putting drugs in you, because they put the nose thing on me too, so you can hear or breathe oxygen.
Yeah.
And that got me. I was a little happy after that. That felt good. I like that. But anyway, so I'm telling her, yeah, the last time I had a colonoscopy, it didn't go very well. And I didn't wake up from the anesthesia.
Oh, they had
Apparently,
you under,
it took me like 2 hours to wake up, and it's only supposed to take like 40 minutes or something like that.
We killed him.
Yeah, and so what? So I don't remember any of this. So this is all second or third hand information.
Okay.
But I was told that I didn't wake up for a long time, and it fucked the whole schedule up for the clinic. Because the doctors or like the nurses, they're not supposed to leave you or like go on to the next patient if this one's not done, and it's not done until I'm like coming out.
Yeah.
So it messed the whole schedule up, and everybody was kind of grumpy and like kind of short with me like afterwards.
Okay.
And so I mentioned that. I was like, "Yeah, I didn't wake up last time," and they're like, "What?"
So you're dead?
And like instantly, like her reaction was not what I was expecting. Like I was expecting to be like, "Oh, okay, sometimes that happens." Yeah. She's like, "Excuse me," and so I was like, I got really worried. And I was like, "Yeah." So I kind of told the story, and she's like, "Oh, okay. Well, they start everybody with a standard dose, and then sometimes if they feel like you need more, they can put more in you. So maybe they felt like you needed more than that at some point, and you just had to restart." I was like, "Oh, that makes sense. Okay." I get into the room, and eventually they wheel you in. By the way, they don't ask your permission. They don't ask if you're ready when they start wheeling you in. Like, yeah, I want some like agency. I'm just laying on this bed. The rails are up. I can't go nowhere. That's freaking me out, man. The rails are up. I can't. I don't know how to put the rails down. There's like a trigger or something. And so I'm getting a little nervous. And they wheel me into the room. And the whole time I was kind of role playing like a alien abduction kind of thing.
Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of make a little spike.
Yeah.
Imagine what he's fucking going under. If you put yourself in that mental state, that
That's a winning headspace for anesthesia.
So I'm kind of role playing this. Alien abductions. I love UFOs and stuff. That's hilarious.
Right.
But so I'm like, all right, they start wheeling me, and I start kind of freak out. And they get me to the operating room, and there's like metal pipes and like hoses like hanging from the ceiling, and there's like fluorescent lighting, and there's like doctors like huddling in the corner, like I can't hear what they're saying. I don't know. Maybe I can understand the language that they're speaking. And so I'm like, holy, this is like an alien abduction. Like it like really started to make me panic. And anyways, so I calmed down. And so I tell the doctor the same thing I told the nurse about the anesthesia last time. And he's like, what? Like the same reaction. And so, he explains they start you with a standard dose. But for me, maybe they won't do so much. They'll do a little bit less than that. I was like, okay, whatever. They told me to roll on my side. They didn't do like a countdown or anything like that. I just was out. And I don't remember anything after that, except I woke up.
Oh, in the middle of the procedure?
During the procedure.
Oh my God.
So the exact opposite of what happened the first time.
You should have told him, Ryan.
The lesser dose wasn't enough. So I woke up and I hear someone saying, Ryan, calm down, Ryan. Ryan, it's okay.
Oh
hey, you're okay,
God.
right? And someone's hand comes in and puts on my shoulder. I'm like, it's okay, Ryan. Hey, just breathe. Just take a deep breath. And I'm like, and then and then like the fucking Matrix, like that scene where the guy Neo is like held down on the table by the agents, and his mouth is like, melted shut. And they hold the little thing, the little shrimp over his belly button, and it goes in his belly button. It was like that, but with my butthole. And I couldn't talk. I was like, I couldn't talk. And I feel this thing wriggling, like this long, like snake kind of thing, like wriggling in my belly.
Christ.
And I feel something in my butthole. And I'm like, Ryan,
don't squeeze.
and I hear, give him 2. And that's all. And the numbers, like, I remember them saying, give him, blah, blah, blah. And they weren't like screaming or anything. They were trying to like, they're professionals. They do something.
Yeah.
And so, and then I woke up in the other room and they like ushered me out the door. I remember putting my shoes on, and then I remember them wheeling me out.
Get him the fuck out of here.
But then I was hazy for the rest of the day, yeah.
Oh my God. You like fucked up their whole day again.
I know. And that's the thing, is like, I shouldn't have said nothing. But I'm like scared of like, when I was sitting there in the bed, I was like, some people don't wake up. So this could be like my last few minutes.
So that's why you were like, give me half the dose. So
I didn't say give me half, but I kind of implied it. Like, I don't want to die.
Yeah.
Then I Googled.
Understandable.
I put in the thing, into the old search algorithm. Mm-hmm. How often do people wake up during colonoscopies? And that didn't pop up. But what did was like, there's different types. Like, you can get a half sedated, so you're like drugged, but not asleep. And some people don't believe in like sedation, really. Yeah. So some people do it non-sedated. So it's not like a big deal.
Right.
It was just really weird.
Yeah. First of all, Ryan, I'm glad you made it through and you woke up.
Yeah.
But it's time to wake up now, for real. It's time to wake up, Ryan.
Wake up, Ryan.
It's time to wake up.
Ryan, it'll be okay.
This is your mother.
No, so I don't want to scare anybody off. And that's what I mean. Is like, there wasn't any pain. Like, the worst thing that could happen is, I think, really, you could wake up during your colonoscopy and take it from somebody. Like, it's not something to be scared of.
Right.
Yeah, like, I would prefer to wake up 2 hours later and have the clinic.
Yeah, I would too.
Have, like, be a little upset, be like, whatever, you got up in my butt, we're done here.
Yeah.
Versus, like, me waking up being like, they're like, don't push!
Oh, fuck! You never want them to go like, oh, shit, oh, what the fuck? Oh! That's always never a good...
Yeah, but, like...
Billy Club him!
But they apparently they took biopsies or something, so I'm a little sore.
Right.
The old colon hurts. And that's not something that you get to experience that often. It's kind of weird.
It's kind of new.
Yeah, it's kind of a new it's a new feeling. I unlocked a new feeling.
Well, cool. I mean, that's terrifying, Ryan. We don't want to dissuade anyone from getting colonoscopies.
No,
that's
in fact, I think the opposite. I mean, take it from someone who's in their late 20s and has had 2 of them. Like, do it. Like, it's important. Colon cancer is like one of the leading causes of death for men and women.
It's fucking horrific. And if you grew up or if you saw Fifth Element in theaters, it's time. Make that fucking schedule.
Yeah, that was our connection. Is that it's about time, guys. You don't
gotta
have to wait till
it's
you're 40
fine.
or 50.
Yeah, I have to get mine at 35.
Yeah, see, yeah.
So it's already in the book.
It's not bad. And it's not even it's not a surgery either. It's just
I've had traveler's diarrhea for 2 weeks.
Jace, maybe you want to
you can cleanse my system. I was just be like, oh, I'll just go back to Mexico if I need to be cleaned.
Oh, this guy's already cleaned out? Hey, this guy called. He said he's already cleaned out. We got room in the schedule today?
We do them today, really quick.
No. Okay, that's the other thing. This is the fun people watching part. I was in the waiting room, and it's the clinic is kind of a one-way clinic. You come in the front door and ironically go out the back door. But when I was in the waiting room, some guy came into the lobby and was like, "Hey, I filled out this paperwork weeks ago, and I want to be scheduled for a colonoscopy. I want a colonoscopy." And the woman at the desk is like, "You have to be diagnosed with the reason for one. It has to be ordered by your doctor." And he's like, "No, I filled the paperwork out with you. You have my information. Schedule me a colonoscopy." And she's like, "Well, it has to be cleared with the doctor. So let me get you a PA." And it has to fit with the doctor's schedule. So if you wait around here, I can get someone to talk to you. And he's like, "I can't wait. I have an appointment." It's like, what?
Just these people.
The type of person who would come into a clinic, demand an appointment, and then say they can't schedule an appointment because they have an appointment.
It's just some people are just all vibes,
right?
know?
And I also he's trying to say it's this clinic's fault that he doesn't have an appointment already. When I've seen him try to make an appointment and he does not do well, so I don't believe him whatsoever that it was the clinic's fault. So you get a lot of, I think they're probably relieved to have a dude in his 20s who's just chilling.
Yeah.
And everyone else is really kind of strung up. People are really nervous in there. And I'm just like, "Hey, what's going on?"
Yeah, I mean that's good to hear. And I've seen a bunch of colonoscopies.
Yeah, you had the other end, literally.
Yeah, the other end. I've had the other end too.
Yeah,
I've had the EGD.
You have had one?
Yeah, I've had the EGD where it goes down your throat.
Oh,
check out my stomach.
Jesus.
That one isn't bad either, guys. It was weird when they had me put in a mouthpiece that held my mouth open with a hole in it for this camera, and they were like, "Just hold this in your mouth real quick." And I was still conscious, and I was like, "I don't like this, guys. Just put me out before this."
Yeah, Julie's had that.
But it was fine. Totally, like you said, Ryan. Same experience, except I just woke up.
Yeah.
But I've seen a bunch of colonoscopies just shadowing. I was shadowed that doctor who was claimed to be the fastest colonoscopy doer in the region. He would knock them out in 10 minutes or something insane. And then he would be like, "All right, next one, let's go, kid." And we'd do 30 in one day.
That's insane.
But just seeing various people, various ages, various body types, get colonoscopies without a hitch. It's not a big deal, guys.
Yeah.
So just why not? I mean, you should just get it if it's time.
And apparently you can just walk in and demand them.
It's drive-through. They do drive-throughs. Thank you for sharing, Ryan. You're a hero.
Yeah, I do what I can.
And I hope it all turns out. Have you gotten the results back or anything
they didn't
yet?
say there was no alarming because they don't talk to you anymore. They called Julie. I was unconscious, so there's no point in telling me what the results were. But that's another thing too. I'm frustrated.
You have to remember.
It's Julie's "Yeah, they didn't say anything." I was like, "No, literally, what did they say?" She's like, "They said you were fine." I was like, "But what does that mean? I want to know the words they used." And
they don't have a biopsy right away of the.
Well, yeah, but
or the results
it's different hearing it from a doctor. Doctor saying, "We didn't find anything abnormal. Your colon presents as that of a healthy 28-year-old male." Versus your wife just being "Yeah, you're fine." There's two different levels of "you're fine" that I'm looking for.
Don't tell them about the gremlins.
Yeah, the gremlins.
Don't tell them about the butt gremlins.
We always tell the partner about the butt gremlins. They live up there. They're super angry.
Well, isn't that something too? Sometimes if they'll be like, "Don't tell him. He only has 3 days to live. Let him live."
Let him have
Do you
this.
want to tell him? And Julie's like, "No. Let him live his life. He's got a podcast scheduled."
The butt gremlins are going to burst out of his fucking colon like Alien in about 3 days. Just take him to the park.
Guys,
show him a good day. So that's why Julie called us. We booked this podcast. We have the video going, and we're going to hopefully get this on air.
We're
live episode.
I can't wait to edit this in a couple days. So with that,
yeah, that's a good segue.
Yeah. Oh, it's good. Good segue. To the to the Fifth Element. So Jace, this was your pick. Obviously, I guess it's going to be your synopsis before we get into it.
Yeah.
But before, do you want to say a little about like why you picked this movie, like what spoke to you in terms of like the disaster and like the dooms concept?
Yeah, as Ryan said, end of the world was the choice, and I was looking for movies that were a bit more. I was looking post-apocalyptic that didn't really focus on end of the world before I took that kind of quite literally and realized, the Fifth Element is technically about the end of the universe.
It technically is,
and potentially the destruction of Earth. So we'll have a bit more conversation about, I think, the movie in a few minutes here, but
yeah, and Jace, when you first pitched it, I was like, Fifth Element, like, what the fuck? Like, that's not a doomsday movie. But then I look at the plot on IMDb and on Wikipedia. The first line is literally like, based on the survival of Earth from an impending destruction. And I was like, well, fuck. All right. I mean, this is only just, I guess it's zooming in on one specific aspect of the solution. But the Earth is still under fire, guys. And there was a literal meteor hitting to the Earth at the end of the movie.
When I think about this movie compared to the core, the problem, the theme of the problem, motif. What's a motif? What does motif mean?
I don't think anyone knows what motif means.
Does anyone know what motif means?
I don't even.
I think it's made up.
The theme is like kind of the same.
Yeah.
World ending. Very, very different.
Insane solution.
Way to get to solving the problem, I guess.
Yeah. Yes, I would say so. So Jace, do you want to give like a synopsis, just like a loose retelling, refresh people's memories, just kind of like what the deal is with this movie?
Yeah, the Fifth Element. If I front load this with a little bit of detail, there's an evil comes back every 5,000 years.
Evil.
An alien race has found a way to stave off that evil by using the powers of the five elements:
water, earth,
air.
Was it fire? Air?
Fire.
I fucked up I think the fire, air. Yeah, those are the elements.
The five elements, they stave it off. At some point, these stones that represent the five elements have to be moved off world because the human race is a piece of shit, essentially. And we get time cut very early in this movie to 300 years later.
Yeah, goddamn.
To the impending evil is coming back, and through a bunch of I'll just say now space opera hijinks.
Sometimes literally.
We end up stopping Mr. Shadow, the end of all life as we know it, and averting the end of the world.
And there you have it, folks. And honestly, they're very vague about kind of the premise. They kind of say like one sentence, and then you're just kind of being like, okay, like there's a fucking evil.
You
coming.
have to accept it for its face value.
Yeah.
Right. And I guess we can start by maybe discussing like what Jace outlined, the premise.
Oh, because I've got questions.
We do too, and it's not very clear, is it?
No, and that's something that I think this movie doesn't do well, is that if they wanted to make a soft sci-fi movie, like have a lot of the questions end with "I don't know" as the answer. Like, whereas this, there was always an answer, and they didn't want to be too sci-fi. There's some mysticality to it, but there was always an answer. And if the answer it couldn't be complicated. It had to be super simple. When you could just be like, I really don't know. There's a lot of stuff we don't understand.
Right. Yeah.
Okay, that'd be fine. But I don't understand the enemy. So the whole time, like that alien race knew it was just a ball of energy.
It's a ball. Yeah.
Yeah.
The way they explain it was,
and its name was Mr. Shadow. Like it took on like an anglicized version of a proper introduction.
To be fair, it was two people that called him Mr. Shadow.
That's true.
It was
right. Yeah.
Jean-Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg.
Thank you.
And his secretary.
Yeah, and I think that was just a projection, right? Because the premise is the three planets go into eclipse every 5,000 years and opens a black hole, releasing, quote unquote, the great evil, which manifests as just this lava ball in space, right? This lava ball is like invincible, and what I appreciated in this movie, they did the disaster movie approach, which is try to immediately blow it up with nukes, which I definitely appreciated in the movie.
Fuck yeah, U.S. military.
Pretty accurate.
They shot like 100 nukes at it, and the priest was like, no, don't do that. It's going to make it get bigger. And they're like, fuck you. And then they blow it up, and it gets like twice as big, and they're like, beans. And they die. And that's like a very disaster movie thing in there. Try to nuke it.
Yeah, but
normally that works.
I don't understand. It was this bad entity only going to destroy Earth? Because it came up in our solar system and it was headed right for Earth. Was it just going to go around the universe? Why did the other race care so much?
It's so, for whatever reason, and I want to put this out here now, this movie's very satirical. And I think the choice is that, it's weird that within a pyramid on Earth is the place of light that this thing needs to stand at to end all life. But it was just a specific choice by the director for the story to have the location of conflict be on Earth.
Okay, so it would spread because, like, the guy reading the hieroglyphs seem to have it incorrect then. Because he says, if it gets here, it'll spread chaos. And it's like some people dying. No, it won't be way worse than that?
Yeah, it's because it's supposed to eradicate all life in the universe.
Okay,
multiple alien
so that
species.
was one of my big question.
And then Earth was just the central point because it was happening there, like Jay said. Yeah.
Okay.
And so the concept is, you have these 4 elements. They're represented in stones. And then you have this 5th, quote unquote, perfect being, a humanoid who is going to combine with these stones and create a mega laser, a super weapon that will eradicate the evil and stave it off for maybe another 5,000 years. I think it sounds like there's like a cycle or something.
Just another 5,000 years.
Yeah.
Because it gets generated by the eclipses. Oh.
There we have it. It's airtight, guys. And then what I appreciated too is like what we mentioned, like the character of Zorg, played by Gary Oldman, was like, first of all, he was great as expected. I love that he also hates this movie and really he said he phoned it in, but he did so good. And then his interactions with Zorg are fucking hilarious because they like scan the evil and they're like, it's making a collect call. Like, he calls this motherfucker on the phone and he's like, hey, did you get those rocks that I super need?
Yeah, I appreciated that difference versus the core, where the whales apparently made a phone call and that really didn't make sense.
Well, we've got an interesting theme with collect calls being dialed in our movies
from
so
entities.
Far.
Yeah.
Oh, I want to draw another connection between the two movies.
Yeah.
What do you think happened more? They said the name of this movie in this movie, or they said the name of the core in the core?
Oh, Jesus. Probably this one.
I think objective.
Like, she's the fifth element. Doom, doom, doom. And then like, if we have 4 elements and we get 1, what would that extra one be called? The fifth element. All the time, every 10 minutes.
Functionally, it has to be the core, though, right? Because they're talking about this motherfucker.
If we go to the core, the core.
The core is approaching.
They said the inner core and the outer core, or the Earth's core, a lot.
So it doesn't count unless they say the core?
Yeah.
Yeah, because they weren't saying the movie name, All
right, fine. Well,
unless they were going, the middle core. The middle core.
The core. The middle of the core. This movie, they did say the fifth element at 4 minutes, 30 seconds. I did have a timer going.
Oh, you did count.
Because I was like, I bet these dudes are going to say the movie title. I feel like these types of movies it kind of edges. I think it is Dadcore. They say the movie title a lot in Dadcore movies.
Yeah, I think that was the point. Again, I think a great portion of this movie is satirical. And you have Bruce Willis just being an absolute copy of his Die Hard character.
Yeah.
And being completely understanding of that. And then them being like, the fifth element.
Yeah. I appreciated that humor right off the bat, too. Starting with the Egypt scene, where they're the famous Aziz Light line and all those gags and the aliens showing up. It's a goofy movie. One thing that bummed me out, though, is that the one alien that got fucking stuck in the tomb. Like, what's he... They didn't even show him again.
Why did his homies just leave him?
He's like, "Oh, it's fine, guys, just go." He's like walking just at like this like very leisurely pace, and the priest's like, "No, dude, hurry the fuck up! Like you could make it through the door."
Time does not matter, only life. take this key in my finger.
And not even like a, oh, fuck, my hand just got crushed scream from the other side of the door.
Yeah, and his friends weren't like, hey, maybe we should check to see if the dude with the key that will stop the end of the universe got out of that room that automatically closes when gunfire happens nearby.
Hey, did Jeff make it out? Let's do a head count real quick. No Jeff.
I don't see Jeff.
Let's
Jeff's
just peel
our
out
boss.
of here.
Who signs our paychecks now?
That was just, they had a very little regard for their own lives with each other, despite saying that they care a lot about life.
Also, how do they become so powerful in the universe if they can only walk at like the pace of a snurtle? A snurtle? That's a snail turtle.
Yeah.
Snurtle.
It's in the universe.
That exists in the universe. Yeah.
Snurtles.
It's a standard attack damage tank build, I think, where it's not much mobility, but they can absorb a lot of damage.
Well, no, they can't. Their ship got shot like 12 times.
Yeah, and that's another thing I want to bring up.
Blew up into
How
infinity.
have they been guarding the universe for thousands of years in this giant interdimensional spaceship and have never been attacked by two of the tiniest freaking ships I've ever seen in my life?
Hey,
Yeah, these guys are idiots.
what? Do you have the same problem with fucking Star Wars? Piece of shit?
Yeah.
Well, okay, fine.
And
That thing, the Death Star, was way bigger than this ship.
did you guys like the string of like stoplights at the edge of what? The galaxy or something that the ship had to pull up to? Like
the edge of the Universal Federation space. I did actually like that.
You know how big space is? And the ship came to a stop. Like, those ships are going hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. They're not just going to come to a stop.
Listen, it's technology beyond our comprehension. It's probably a works program to put like stop signs every couple light years just to, kind of have
three-dimensional.
like, fix the problem.
So the three-dimensional aspect of that, but I think they do that in Star Trek too, like on the edge of Federation space.
Yeah, Star Trek's for nerds though.
Star Trek has beacons that they put on the edge of Federation space and to mark, so they don't go into Klingon
exactly
space.
what we had here.
So this is hard sci-fi, folks. Just as hard as Star Trek. Do you guys, since we're talking about the evil briefly, do you guys like the cherry choking scene with Gary Oldman?
No.
It was so bizarre. It did get a laugh out of me. But this dude is doing the evil monologue and just starts dying.
Did he put the cherry in the cup?
A cup of water,
yeah. And he slammed his drink. And then this dude is begging for the Heimlich in front of the priest, who's in an interesting ethical scenario.
Yeah.
He was he could have just let him fucking die and just movie end right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, should have.
He did the right thing.
No,
Probably
he didn't.
should have. What?
He didn't do the right thing.
He's a man of the cloth. He can't take a life.
Dude, if you're in a room with Elon Musk and that dude is choking on a cherry.
Yeah.
Look, I didn't put the cherry in his glass, but if he was already choking, is that murder if I don't save him?
That's why I'm not learning the Heimlich.
Listen, I'm not a Boy Scout. I'm not a priest. I don't have any moral compass guiding me towards saving your life. But it is kind of fucked up to watch you choke to death. It's kind of unsettling.
Side note, there is an episode of Always Sunny in Philadelphia where that literally happens. Frank starts choking at dinner and everybody just sits there and watches and it's like, come on.
The waiter come and save him and then
something like that, yeah.
Frank completely disowns everybody in the group.
Wait, Ryan, is it ethically sound if for example, you don't give the Heimlich, right? And someone you want to die is choking and you don't do it, but you purposely didn't learn the Heimlich in anticipation for an event like this. So you can legally say, I have no idea how to medically administrate this life-saving intervention.
So,
but I purposely didn't learn it.
Your question is directed at me.
Oh,
and
right.
You're saying, do you know if there's ethics here? And there's some implication that I would know whether or not something is ethical when this just came from my brain.
Okay, let's remove this from the law. Just generally, do you guys think that'll hold up?
Yeah.
If I say I purposely didn't learn this.
Yeah, I don't want that responsibility. I don't want to put someone's life in my hands.
So we could plant cherries. I'm just saying it's an assassination.
Oh, if you plant cherry trees? What, that what you're saying?
Okay. So you flood the market with cherry drinks. So it's all very indirect. You assassinating this guy.
I think as long as you're not hiding stuff in their food.
Okay. I think
I made you this nice cherry compote.
Don't choke. Be careful.
So if like a terrible person chokes on a cherry, just like FBI, like I didn't fucking do anything. Just I just want to like make that super clear right now.
Yeah.
So
Don't do anything.
Yeah.
Cherries?
all right, we just took a brief break. Ryan, did you get a chance to ask Julie the ethical question? What did she
She was
think?
talking to her mom, and I was like,
did
"There's
she-
no way."
Don't want to ask that question right then.
No.
Do you guys think? I guess for this next portion, I do want to kind of bring up right after we kind of talked about this off air too, but like the director, writer, producer guy of this movie, Luc Besson, has some pretty chilling allegations against him from multiple women, and also has an extremely troubling history of, I guess, like literal pedophilia. Marrying a 16-year-old that he knew since he was 12, amongst other things. That was it casts. I didn't know about this like before with this movie. Growing up watching it, and it casts a pretty long shadow for me on the rewatch.
Yeah, for me, like not knowing the specifics, but knowing in general of his reputation, like the now even in 2022, movies that do shit like Bruce Willis kissing the girl who's sleeping, like
Oh Jesus, yeah.
stuff like that. I mean, at least the character was like, "Oh, I should have done that." That's a huge step up from freaking what's the Matthew McConaughey movie that I hated that we all hated?
Ghost of Girlfriend's Past.
Ghost of Girlfriend's Past. Yeah,
But
when
I
he
don't
was
think that
literally doing
still
it.
excuses it because he still ends
Well, it
up
doesn't excuse it.
like together with her, and he's kind of rewarded for
No,
his,
right, and that's one
like,
thing I mean is like
Yeah.
the character wins in the end, and this isn't a movie that's seeking to punish male characters for overstepping their bounds
for anything.
and
Yeah.
so therefore let's leave out male characters overstepping their bounds.
Yeah, I mean, that plagued this movie for me on the rewatch, and even just divorced from that entirely. I was watching this with Amber, who's never seen this movie before at all, like never even heard of it, and it was like, I think the first interaction Bruce Willis has with Leeloo, her first reaction was like, "Ew, I don't fucking like this movie. I'm out." Like,
What?
just I mean, first of all, Mila Jovovich, who I think does a decent job in this movie, was 21. And Bruce Willis is in his, mid-40s in this movie. And right off the get, there's a really weird, like, father figure / lover vibe that I'm not jiving with in this movie.
Yeah, that's just classic Hollywood though. Like they refuse to cast any woman that's not in her 20s or really teens through maybe 30, 32, and with a similarly aged man who's in his 30s. Like it always had to be someone who was young, and that's just, I didn't know she was that young, but like then again, I didn't know Anne Hathaway was that young when she started. So yeah, it's just kind of weird. I do it's kind of weird vibes, but that didn't bother me as much because I didn't like Bruce Willis's character. I wasn't looking up to him.
Yeah.
Rather, as like in the Matthew McConaughey movies, when he's hooking up with 20-year-old girls, he's like, "Oh, look at how cool Matthew McConaughey is."
But I feel like Bruce Willis is portrayed as this kind of badass alpha male, right? Because think about like how
But he's a
impotent.
loser.
Yeah. I don't think anybody's supposed to look up to him.
Yeah,
He's
nobody
a
wants his
shitty
life.
He's a shitty piece of shit military man that's like literally, I'm a meat stick.
Yeah.
False. I'm a meat stick. But if you view everything under the contextualization that he's a piece of shit because he kissed her, even though he says, "I should not have done that," and she says, "You should not ever do that without my permission," then it kind of cascades downwards, and I think it becomes a lot more negative. To me,
I hope
he's
so.
a satirical bad guy that is not the type of person you should be.
He's kind of an anti-hero.
Yeah, that is the vibe. But just the fact that he is like so manly and potent compared to the other men in this movie.
Yeah.
I think
and
that,
it's kind of like a
Yeah.
toxic masculine in some ways.
It
And
totally
but
is,
the
yeah.
problem, the reason I agree with you a lot of it is because I think the problem with toxic masculinity is they don't realize that it's bad. If they were like, "Oh, society really isn't like this. I'm not a good person, but I'm gonna do it anyways," it'd be different. But people who may agree with Bruce Willis would not see his character in a bad light, even though I do.
Right.
So that's one thing we always come back to this is, does the movie know that this character is bad? And in this movie, especially with the director's history, like it's hazy, and I could totally see one little thing if maybe the mood or the tone of the scene was different, it could swing it one way or the other. Or maybe someone's just preconceived notions of what it's like or who they're watching the movie with would totally change their view on it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. One thing to note, though, is like the director of this movie, who was in his 40s. I mentioned that he married a 16-year-old, and then she was 20 around this time of this movie. He left her for Mila Jovovich when this was filmed. She was 21 and he was like, again, in his mid 40s. I do think his like weird, like perverted eyes are all over this movie.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. But like, I don't think viewing the movie in a vacuum would make me feel that way.
I mean, I did feel that a bit on my end because like the first thing that happens when Mila Jovovich is regenerated out of the hand, which was a cool scene. Was like one of the men are just like, I'd like to take a few pictures for science, of course.
Totally
and
agree.
I'm like, oh, Jesus
I do
Christ.
think
that was played
those
for laughs.
characters
Like,
were, it was played for laughs, but I think those characters were losers. Like the movie obviously displayed them as being losers who had never seen a woman before, and that was I still think it wasn't good anyways, but like it was ridiculous. It was over the top, but I don't think that part was in a vacuum would be problematic.
It's just like I felt like every scene where someone's interacting with Leeloo, it was always about how hot she was and how perfect she was.
That was weird, yeah.
Yeah, I just learned about the Born Sexy Yesterday.
Oh.
The Born Sexy Yesterday is a common... I'm just straight off of Film Inquiry, top Google. Born Sexy Yesterday is the common sexual fantasy depicted in films and television shows around female characters that exude sex appeal, but other than their physical aesthetic, they mimic the behaviors, intelligence, and attitudes of young children.
Oh,
so thank you. That's what I was. Yeah.
So we do get that because they went through. So yeah, I'm in a weird place because I really enjoyed this and. Yeah, I really enjoyed this movie, but I didn't take the. You had mentioned what the director did, but I kind of viewed it in a vacuum, just because, for better or for worse, for me, understanding that people can make a product and then be absolute entire pieces of shit. Like I think probably most everybody in Hollywood's a piece of shit, so maybe we should be more critical. But I kind of just, for better or for worse, probably for worse, I don't. I kind of ignore the pre-existing, the director was a piece of shit, he was doing this piece of shit things. But yeah, so for this movie, it was like they were trying to balance it with, one, totally fails the Bechdel test, but they were trying to balance, like, she's the supreme being. Apparently in his movies, he puts in this one dominant female role very often, which he did in this movie with Leeloo. But, like, trying to balance the naivety of the Born Sexy Yesterday with the, she speaks a different language. She came out of being reconstructed, supremely intelligent, and she can watch the A to Z history of the Earth and memorize everything almost instantaneously. In that regard, in regards to what we're talking about, it's kind of troubling, kind of weird.
No, I agree. And I didn't actually know about that trope that you mentioned either. And I want to be clear too, like, I'm not trying to call out people who enjoy this movie because there's a lot to enjoy. Like I enjoyed this growing up, and there was even on the rewatch, I was like, oh, that's fucking cool. Like this is sweet. But I did at least want to mention that just because it did trouble me on the rewatch.
And that's something that directors are responsible for a lot too, is like he is responsible for the overall tone of how things are displayed. And even if he had written the story, but a different director might have done this in a better way or like more acceptable way to where like there wasn't such a creepiness factor. I did catch a lot of the creepiness stuff, but to me, well, let's take the Band-Aid off right now. I didn't like this movie, and I never really have. It just mostly stems from me watching in bits and pieces with Jace and never watching the whole thing. So this movie's so tonally all over the place that it was hard for me to connect the dots. And watching it definitely is better watching it in one sitting. But I think for me, I like my movies, even if they're campy and ridiculous. I like my movies, I'm saying. I like movies that are like tonally consistent. And I can kind of say, I'm going to watch this movie because it has this vibe, and this vibe is what I'm looking for. And it's hard for me to do that with this movie. And so I was kind of just lumping all those criticisms in with the stuff I didn't like about this movie. And because I know Jace loves this movie. So this time I was really looking for, number one, like real criticisms that I could bring up, maybe that I just didn't understand as well as he did, or things I liked about the movie and when we could talk about. And so everything kind of went in this other box, and the creepiness with the director was kind of in the otherness box. I did write down what, have they never seen a woman before? And so I caught on to it, but yeah, I didn't really dwell on it too much.
Yeah, this movie was divisive, when it came out too. That's kind of what made it a cult hit, is that it's very vibey, and some people hated it and some people really loved it. And that was the thing when it came out, even. But it's such a big part of the movie is Leeloo and her kind of, I guess, infantilization. And I did feel like for a lot of the scenes, despite her, with the exception of her action scenes or where she's shown to be capable, she was kind of treated like an object. And I feel like a lot of the women in this movie, actually every woman besides Leeloo, were treated as either a sex object or a butt of a joke, besides the one quote unquote ugly woman that was supposed to be pushed on Bruce Willis. And that part was just, this is obviously the 90s, but it's just like a splash of water in my face when I see shit like this. And kind of the first line when Bruce Willis is introduced, he's like, oh yeah, that's why I'm single, because of that quote unquote 2-timing slut that left me, and I can't find the perfect woman. And that's, shit like that, whether or not it's intended a certain way, it does come off a certain way into the audience. Audiences will internalize that and be like, yeah, I want to be fucking Bruce Willis. Women suck. And besides this one woman who shows up and she's perfect. And just having that right there, it fucking bummed me out. Fuck. It just, I didn't even, register this, I guess, growing up and then watching it with adult eyes.
Yeah. It's like rewatching SpongeBob and identifying with Squidward. Yeah. The whole experience is different as an adult too. We're blind to a lot of the director's attempts to make us identify with a certain character when we're kids, and we kind of write that character off. Yeah.
But one thing I do want to talk about too is just, Mila Jovovich, I guess, outside of this context, if we can. What do you guys think of kind of her role? She did kind of go all in on the fake language, which I thought was pretty valiant. I don't know whether or not it totally worked. What do you guys kind of think with that?
She's fine. I thought that it was just a standard role. A lot of it was physical. She didn't have to display a huge emotional range, and she didn't have to give a performance where she was a believable human being, which sometimes is helpful, I guess, for selling a character. So there's not really much to say. I think she was just kind of she did fine. Don't get me wrong. I liked her performance, but it's nothing really to talk about too much, because I can't be like, yeah, she did a really good job. She totally sold alien from another planet that has never been existed before. I don't have a frame of reference.
Yeah, I think I'd liked her in the role, because this was, I think, one of her first performances, and I think she kind of sold some of this shit they're asking her to do is pretty ridiculous. Just some of her reactions, her pounding on the glass and just shouting this crazy language, that's hard to sell as an actor. I'd feel pretty fucking uncomfortable trying to pull that off. So I think I have to give some credit, there.
So the note from trivia is that because she had already spoken 4 languages, her and the director developed some 400 words for the language.
Oh shit! So it's
some
actual
basic words, yeah. So it was akin to them coming up with Dothraki in Game of Thrones, coming up with whether or not an actual linguist was involved, coming up with some words to make it so that in the scenes where she's speaking, I guess to them it meant something.
Holy shit. Wait, so a 400-word language. That means we could probably learn it and do a podcast episode in Fifth Element.
It's hello, how are you?
Maybe not conjugate verbs.
I drank coffee. That's 10 words already, so this is not very complicated, I think. It's more to give the character confidence in saying their lines, I think, because they would know what type of emotion they're trying to express, rather than it's trying to make a workable language, because all you have to do is write a script and then make up fake words for those words that character would have said in the other language.
Because I was thinking, man, because I didn't know that it was an actual language, because I was like, if she's just speaking gibberish right now, that's fucking good. She didn't repeat any noise. That's cool though. Shit. That's, I think, a plus side with this movie. I do feel like they built a world, the aesthetic.
I think that's the strongest part of this movie.
Yeah, I didn't agree at the beginning, but by the end of the movie, I thought the world building was good.
we are literally talking about the movie that had the biggest budget in history for set building and for
Really?
So the budget for this movie was $90 million, but like, the sets on this movie are insane. They're huge.
Yeah.
The hotel, one, I love the backdrop for New York, the CGI for the flying cars, and it really, above all else, the set design and the detail that went into those and the aliens really made this, as far as a space opera goes, it made me feel connected.
Yeah, I agree. Like, that shit was fucking cool. Like, the cityscapes and shit. One, I love, like, a cool futuristic apartment scene where, the main character wakes up and just has, like, a bunch of shit around him that he interacts with. Like, I feel like they fused the goofiness of this world into that scene well, or had, like, the stop smoking cigarettes and, like, all the drawers that, like, move in and out and the gags that are associated with those.
I think the strongest part of the world building is how they tied it into our current world. My favorite part was the cigarettes that are 80% filter.
Yeah.
That's a clever joke that's never, said verbally. But this suffers from the same problems that plagued like Ridley Scott's early movies, is that taking the technology of the day and then placing it 300 years in the future in this supposedly futuristic world, but never inventing your own technology, is going to not age well. So the technology looks more primitive than what we have now, but it's supposed to happen 280 years in the future. And for that reason, and it's very, very obvious, and there's explicit references to Blade Runner.
Right.
And the problem is Blade Runner did everything better. And you can do these huge budget CGI things, and Blade Runner didn't do that. He's walking around on the ground, and he's poor, so he doesn't really have a flying car, so he's looking up. And in this one, he's a cabbie, he's poor, but he's still flying around in a flying car. And so the vibe is different. And I know that it was on purpose that the director wanted to make like a light, fun universe, where Blade Runner, the director wanted to make a dark, sad universe. And so it's different takes, but it's obviously inspired. And there's even one scene where she comes out of the shower in his apartment, and the freaking piano line from Blade Runner starts playing.
Oh, really? the Blade Runner blues or whatever?
It's literally like starts playing over the, or it's temp music at least. Like, and so I don't know, for that reason, like Blade Runner is such an important movie to me that I was kind of like, God damn it, I kind of wish I was watching Blade Runner.
A lot of the set pieces and designs from this were later used in Star Wars. And Star Wars is some of people's favorite movies, so it's like
it's all very
like stuff.
I recognized it, right? It's all very like it's melded into our current canon for sci-fi well, but I don't think that this tone, at least in the setting, does it for me. I think the world was fine, but like, I don't know.
Yeah, no, that's, it is a very specific tone too. And if you're not down with it, like, it doesn't work, but like, it was a bit cartoony, I think, on purpose. I don't know if that's kind of like a French, like, aesthetic thing. Cause I remember watching this at first, my dad kind of explained to me, he was like, yeah, this is made in Europe, the different sensibility. It's going to be kind of goofy and weird. Yeah. and there's like, fight scenes where Leeloo like slaps a guy in the face and does like a Looney Tunes, like, and there's all these gags. Bruce Willis just casually kills like a bunch of generals in the freezer.
They all survived.
Do you think?
They did.
They came out
in the movie later on. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well, I guess they have the regenerating technology.
But yeah, that was super fun. I love that bit. Like forgets him, and he's like, "Whoa!"
He's like, "Oh shit!"
It's like forgetting leftovers that you have in the fridge. Like,
yeah. Yeah, and to speak more on the aesthetic too, like the alien designs, I thought were sick. I liked the weird golden egg boys that showed up in the beginning. I thought that was an interesting choice. And then the diva scene, I thought that was like pretty captivating. Who, fun fact, is portrayed by Luc Besson's first wife. She was the blue alien.
Woof.
Like, yeah.
See, that's one thing, is his fingers are a little too much in the pot. Like, it's kind of weird.
The scene was good.
We don't talk about that.
Yeah, like I liked the opera and the weird like fucking dance music that came on and the fight interplay.
See, I think this is my biggest disconnect. That's my least favorite part of the movie.
Yeah,
I really
don't like the action scene.
The action scene itself maybe was okay, but like I didn't like it intersposed with that music. I didn't really understand what was going on. I didn't like the opera singing music. I didn't understand why everybody's minds were fucking blown by this opera performance when it was just like a rather typical opera performance, and they flew out there specifically for it. Like, it's not like they're like, Bruce Willis was like, what?
So, I mean, I feel like, and don't get me wrong here, I feel like you're assuming that because it's the future and there's technology, that everybody in the universe is now suddenly so used to having their minds blown 24/7 that the mundane, such as opera, becomes boring and bland. But this is a dude that's a cab driver.
Yeah.
That's like everybody, when you get the call from his mom that's like, you bastard, you got the trip to the hotel on this super cool planet. It's like there are 200 billion people in the universe, but they're still living the same old boring ass lives that we are here. So him being there is like, could be fucking huge for him. It's like the first time that I went to see an opera show. Maybe he's never done that before. So he's like, oh, fuck. Oh, it's fucking
but it was weird that he liked it. That's kind of what I mean. It's like...
the drums and the synths, it comes out of the opera singer too. So there's no instruments.
The whole point of that choosing that opera is because of the difficulty in singing it. And there is, in the unmodified version, a high F above a high C. I don't know, fucking something stupid. Something incredibly difficult to perform. And then they, I think, played the track over itself with the singer to make it in such a way that it's impossible.
But that's one reason why I don't really feel like I enjoyed it. Is that like, it's so weird and out there, and like
I think it was a meme. To be entirely honest,
but like there's a certain aspect of the movie where like, oh, okay, I kind of understand it's an alien singing. Haha, they won't sing like a human. It would sound weird. Mm-hmm. Like at some point, say the joke and move on. Mm-hmm. Whereas if it plays for like 3 minutes, I just get annoyed. Like, because I don't like the singing because it's not how a human sounds. It's kind of like self-defeating.
Ryan doesn't like singing.
Oh yeah, I had this thing. I was like, is this what other people like? So okay, I gotta calm down a little bit because just looking at that alien, and let's not be alienist, but let's agree that it looks weird.
Okay, right. You can't fucking say an alien looks weird, all right? That's not cool, all right? Like, who knows? This is broadcasting out in space, potentially, and there could be a fucking blue alien out there.
And maybe let's agree, for the sake of argument, that it doesn't sound particularly pleasing on its own.
Oh my. Okay. All right. Listen, Ryan. I gotta edit this show.
Let's, for the sake of argument, take those for granted.
Okay.
Why didn't they just have Linkin Park in space?
Yeah, exactly. But no, let's just take those two arguments. That's how I feel when I'm watching Julie Andrews sing in a movie.
God damn it.
Okay. Fair enough.
So take those emotions watching that alien sing. Like, oh, this kind of sounds funny. I don't really enjoy this. And, it's a weird looking thing. I don't know. That's just,
Maybe take it from this view.
I'm not charmed by Princess Diaries 2.
Opera is for, like, rich, snooty fuckheads. And,
such as
this scene is that.
So, sentence.
Like, do you want me to say Julie Andrews?
No, stop. I will not accept this Julie Andrews slander.
I'm not on the Andrews slander, but, like, maybe you can take it with, like, no, never mind.
Listen, Ryan doesn't like singing. He doesn't like aliens either. So aliens,
I don't know that I would love that. I'd be like, sitting in that audience, like,
I'd be bopping. I would fucking bop into those beats.
The drums, I at least have like a professional drummer, like make the drum. It's like boom, 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 boom.
They're alien drummers.
Yeah, but like it's like when someone says, "Oh, I know how to beatbox, boots and cats." Like, no, you don't.
Keep going.
No, like there's the professionals who actually know how to do it. I don't know if they're professional beatboxers, but like there's people who really know how to do it, and it sounded like so. Like the director was like, "Hey guys, I got this little noodle thing. I made this cool little sound, like little thing on. We should put this in the movie." And they're like, "Okay, you're our boss. We have to say we like it."
So what Ryan's saying is that everybody should give up on their hopes and dreams and their new hobbies before they get started because you're gonna suck.
Well, you're not too far off.
In Ryan's defense, the diva has no ears. in this movie. So maybe she.
What were those long blue tube things?
I think those were appendages, right? Like, or sensors. Maybe she has senses that we don't have, and the music is like processed differently.
That's how she won. Like, that's how she connected with Leeloo, right?
The sensors, like
she didn't actually get shot. Thing? Leeloo got shot.
I think she actually got shot.
What? I think she did.
I thought she mind melded with Leeloo, and that's why like the music was timed to the action scene.
No, dog. People were shooting in the fucking theater.
But she got shot at the same time Leeloo got shot.
But I mean, I don't think in the same spot.
You know, I
thought that was the implication because the scenes happened next to each other temporally.
Yeah, but I mean, I do think a bullet like physically hit her.
Yeah, I think she.
I mean, I think this is a good segue to the solution here because she gets shot right in front of Corbin, and Corbin's like, "Where's the stones?"
The opera singer has the stones for some reason, by the way.
Yeah. Well, they said the aliens gave it to her because they trusted her.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not hard to shoot someone on a fucking stage. Give it to someone else who just like hangs out in a room with a lock on the door.
But they did that, and that room got broken into.
It did. But they had 2 decoy stones. I think it was a little wild where she was like, the stones are in me, and then dies. And Bruce Willis is like, okay, well, I think I'm just going to start digging through the bullet wound.
Dig it straight in the tummy. I mean, where were they going to be? Would she get like a Brazilian butt lift, but with the rocks? He's not going to...
Well, is that why she died?
Was it the bullet?
The stones were in her, and she's like, it really didn't matter that the bullet actually hit one of the stones. I was slowly dying. I was trying to scream, and that's why my music sounded so bad.
I had to die anyway.
They surgically implanted stones in him like the dude in The Dark Knight who has the cell phone in his stomach, and the Joker blows it up.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I would have started looking somewhere else. Like, I mean, she's like clearly delirious because she got shot.
Like, turn her over, see if she's wearing like a fanny sack.
Yeah, and like he's like fucking elbow deep in like her organs and just feeling around. He's like, oh, I think it's inside. And I mean, they were, but like, holy shit, if he was wrong.
Could you imagine if they weren't? What are you doing?
What the fuck, dude?
She said, in me. It's like, that dude's name is me.
It's in him.
Like, and he is so lucky the stones were in there. And then I guess like at one point the evil is like it decides to throw a meteor at Earth. I think
that is the evil.
Like, that is the evil.
The evil is shooting towards Earth.
I thought the evil shot the meteor.
No, the evil is
like
the meteor.
Separate...
The evil was the meteor.
All right, I'll accept this.
Because in lore, the evil must stand upon this place, which is it flying too.
It has to feel to not know something, dumbass.
All right, fine. The meteor is coming towards Earth, and they gotta bring all the elements together in the pyramid, right? I kind of like that scene where they were putting the rocks in and like mixing the elements. I thought that was kind of fun. It was a cool scene. I like that scene where he like
tell they
breathes
weren't
on
actually looking at anything too, because like the different actors had different ways of interpreting what the CGI was going to look like.
Listen, it's not easy. As someone who
I like that scene too. That was my favorite part of this movie.
Works in the industry, I know how hard it can be to act against nothing. And listen, I've acted in front of a green screen before, and it's tough. It's tough pretending.
Your whole movie
it's just dots. Yeah, I mean that was cool. They put the match scene where he has the match. You got a match fire with fire.
Suspense.
That was a good scene.
Just put the match on the thing, dude.
Yeah, light it right next to it.
They only last like 10 seconds.
And then
it turned into shit. I think can we all agree that the Bruce Willis Mila Jovovich scene with the tell her
you met her yesterday. You've never had a conversation at all. Like it was weird to have her like catatonic because of her emotions after seeing a bunch of war scenes, and he solves it by like kissing her and saying he loves her. It felt really ick. Also just like, why would you tell her you love her? He met her like fucking yesterday, and they've been through like
now
nothing.
Is not the time. the meteor that will destroy all life in the universe is barreling towards Earth, and you're like, maybe I'm rushing into this too fast.
It is a little weird. Like they didn't tell him that the activation thing is for her to be in a relationship. Like they should have kind of like wrote that in the manual.
He obviously knew what he had to say.
Yeah, I mean,
he had to mean it.
He did have to mean it, and that's kind of a gamble.
The version of this scene in The Matrix was better. I do agree.
What was it in The Matrix?
With Trinity getting on Neo and saying, "I love you, Neo."
That was bad. That was
when
a
he's
better
in the
scene.
when he's in the chair and then he wakes up in the Matrix. Yeah, badass.
And it wasn't as like creepy because I think
No,
the
they knew each
genders were
other.
reversed. Yeah, and they knew and there was an actual relationship. Yeah, and then they kiss and a laser beam shoots off and blows up the asteroid.
Mm-hmm.
I did like this, like the president scenes. I thought were pretty funny, where he's progressively getting sweatier, and then he's like, "It blew up 62 miles from Earth."
It's just sitting there, and it's like, that's pretty close to Earth.
That's pretty fucking.
That's really fucking close
yeah,
to
they
Earth.
go like spaceships go 17,000 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So just orbit Earth. It's like
I don't
62
think
miles.
that's in
It's like,
space anymore. That's like at that point, it's starting to like compress the air, isn't it, and like
Yeah.
heating things up. And then the closing scenes, they're having sex in the tube, and it's gross and weird. And he's like,
how did
like,
Bruce Willis get in the tube?
I think
Why
they
is
like
he
put them
in
both
the
I
vicinity
don't
of the tube?
fucking know, man.
Because they love each other. Got a boink.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
why the tube?
People who love each other boink.
In tubes.
The regenerative tube?
Yeah, why is
That's
he
a
even
Bacta
near
tank.
the tube?
It's a dry Bacta tank.
They could have fused together or something in the regeneration process. You gotta be fucking careful.
That would have
It's-
been cool.
Wait, I know this is getting a long episode, but can we figure out a better solution than they did?
Yeah,
to
so
this,
that's
to
the
this
two
crisis?
questions.
Okay,
Number one, could the three of us survive this? The answer is yes,
Yeah.
because
we
everybody
don't have to do
survived
fuck all, right?
it.
Like,
Same with the core. Like,
Is that the direction we're gonna take in every single one of these until
no, because
like,
some are gonna be like the day after
No.
tomorrow, where like a thing, or a
Okay.
zombie apocalypse. Yeah.
okay.
we should imagine ourselves on the team, though. Too, I think to
Well,
be
no,
fair.
no. This is next. That's next. Could we prevent
Okay,
the end of the world from happening if we were so tasked?
so let's say the three of us.
No, there were
tasked
only
with-
2 tickets to the hotel. So.
Yeah, there's no fucking way. I would have probably given it to you guys. It's COVID, like I don't feel
Hell yeah,
comfortable,
I'm
so
going.
maybe you guys can take it, and
I'm going, but I'm not going to
yeah.
be able to save the world because I'm getting ripped drunk as soon as I get on.
So
to
it's
that
on me.
boat.
Yeah, I would easily be able to do this because I would just be like, "Hey, do you have the stones?"
no, yeah, cool.
That's it.
I mean, yeah, it's
Probably wouldn't go to the opera.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't have gotten the stones out of her body though
Just
if you
wait
didn't go
till
to the
bad
opera.
guys are gone.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
you would have not been there for her to tell you that they were inside of her. You would be like, ah, shit, I don't know where the stones
Well,
are.
if I'm anything like Bruce Willis, I'm just gonna stick my hands in her gunshot wounds, anyways.
One thing to mention though about Bruce Willis, like the reason why he got the mission is he's special forces retired Green Beret shit. I mean, this dude at one point did like 1v70 a bunch of aliens. I don't think I could do that.
It was a pretty sick scene to me.
Yeah, pretty big
What
action set
if
piece.
They came to us and they're like, "You guys have this podcast where you point out flaws in ridiculously complicated plans. We need you to come evaluate our situation." I can
Yeah,
see it.
okay, we're gonna take
consultants.
this unhinged fucking taxi driver.
Yeah,
put
just
him
say
in.
no. Don't wait till after the opera to save the universe.
Yeah, because she was like, yeah, after I'm going to sing this show in this highly
You
public
could
thing,
probably
and then I'm
will
going to give you the
sing better
stones.
if you don't have 4 giant stones inside of you.
I feel like it was planned because there's no way that was in her like that in a safe way. And I feel like she kind of knew what was going to happen.
Or she was, got to sacrifice herself.
You guys remember
when she met later?
Yeah.
that thing that floated around on Reddit like 5-10 years ago where it was like, would you like, let's say you're the president and there's a guy with nuclear codes, but the nuclear codes
Yeah.
are inside him and you have to kill him.
Shit. Oh, right, yeah.
The president has to kill him to get the nuclear codes because he has to know what it'd be like to kill someone.
Right. Because if you can kill one person, you can kill a million or whatever.
Or if you can't, you shouldn't. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, if you can.
Kinda
It'd be
like
a
that.
lot easier to kill a million people from far away than to kill one person right in front
That's
of you.
kind of the
Well,
argument.
Yeah, the thing.
Can I kill that guy from far away? Like, have like a.
Or just have someone
have
else
like
do it. Like, you think the president's gonna do it with his bare hands?
Well, I'm gonna have a button that I'm gonna have a button that I press that pages an assassin 200 miles away that kills the
Or
guy.
the president has to do it, and the dude fights back. And if he
The
kills the
law
president,
is-
he becomes the president, and they get a new dude.
There's a half a pool stick on the ground, both of them stripped naked. There's a circle drawn in chalk. The president and the guy with the bomb inside him
And
has to fight.
song from that episode of Star Trek plays.
You guys want to get into our meters?
Yeah, please.
So, what did we? Was it
Apocalymeter.
Apocalymeter.
Alpacalometer.
Alpaca. How many alpacas were in this movie, Ryan? You want to start us off?
We got
So
a
I
full
think-
shot of Earth at some point, so
We
We
did.
did
At
have
least.
full shot of Earth. I think the problem this movie faces is that most of the scenes that had care put into them were about the characters, and the plot and everything was just kind of like, we just have to find something that would threaten the Earth. And for that reason, like, once again, just like the core, most people weren't even aware this was happening. So it's hard to evaluate it as like an end of the world movie when it's really, I don't know, it feels much more like a specialized mission movie. And it didn't happen. Remember we said like that was like a bonus point. If we actually saw the Earth destroyed or something like that.
Right.
So it's going to be pretty low. And like Denali said, I didn't first realize this was an end of the world movie in that context until it was pointed out. So whereas the core was a 5, I think this would go down to like a 3 because the world would end. Let's be real. Like the threat was, really intense, but it's not like I was really particularly worried about it actually happening. So yeah, and I'm also not clear on what it was. It was kind of like Mr. Shadow. It's kind of this dude.
He's a guy.
Do you think there's a dude in that meteor?
He like had a voice and spoke English and like wanted things, right? Like he cared about like business, didn't he?
No, he used business. If we consider that as an omnipotent being, he used the frailty of Gary Oldman's character, who cares about money, to achieve a means to an end, which is saying, "I will give you money," and he's like, "My cost went up," and it's like, "Yeah, it doesn't matter because I'm using you and I'm going to murder everything." And
yeah.
Okay.
And he'll pour chocolate syrup on your head if you disagree.
Yeah, what was that all about? Okay, I'm done. 3.
Okay, a 3. Yeah, Ryan, I'm kind of along the same track as you. I do think this was an end of the world movie, so I think it is fair. But I'm thinking about how much of the end of the world was a part of this movie. A lot of it was, even though I didn't like it, it was a love story. A lot of it was kind of like an adventure film. A little bit of kind of like I don't know, I don't want to say like espionage, but it was just kind of like this tale of like this swashbuckler making his way through this world. So I don't think it made up a large part of the movie, and I will give it some points for having like the world shots of the asteroid coming to Earth. I do think that's very end of the world-esque, and they did have to like have the buzzer beating like last second, we're stopping the thing before it hits us. There was also a couple good bomb scenes. I know that's not relevant, but I do like a good stop in the timer before it happens. And when the second bomb showed up, I laughed. And the motivation for Gary Oldman too, I think, troubled me. He did explain kind of like what was it, like destruction causes life, but I was kind of scratching my head a little bit. I think he was trying to say that like if destruction happens, he'll make more money.
Yes.
On the cleanup.
But shitty capitalist.
Right, yeah, and I'm just like, but if everyone dies, like, but I guess that's how actual capitalists think too. I don't, very like short-sighted. So I kind of struggled with that conceptually. Like Ryan said, I think the impending threat I didn't really feel in this movie like I felt with the core, where I was like, this is an actual tangible thing that could happen with this world. I was more concerned about Leeloo and Corbin's character, about what's happening with them, and sometimes even forgot about the threat to Earth. Mm-hmm. I think for that reason, I'll give it a 2. I think I get some points for kind of recognizing that it's going to end, but I don't think it was the central focus.
Fair enough. Yeah. So my apocalypse, I think end of the world, straight out of the gates, you're hit with 15 minutes. Really, this is a long movie. I think it's like 2 hours and 7 minutes. You're hit with a strong 15 minutes of world building, setting up this apocalypse and how it's going to happen. And I agree with you that throughout the middle of the movie, we kind of lose that. We lose that the apocalypse or the end of the world is going to happen. But the major theme of the film is, a quest to stop that. And a lot of the world building and scenes are entirely focused on that. The mission room with the president. So I'm going to give it a point for that, because the military of the Earth, and I'm just going to call it the USA at this point, is involved. They're inept. Yeah. They try to stop it. They don't stop it.
They did try to nuke it. That's a point.
So they did try to nuke it. So I think that's like almost directly in line with what happened in the core. Just like the core, there's an evil guy whose fault it kind of technically is that we're closer to the end of the world. And we don't get that delivered to us until like 75% of the way through the movie. So I think that's a common theme that I'm going to start looking for in these apocalypse movies. So it was Zorg's fault. It was like, well, yeah, I'm trying to steal the stones and stop anyone from being saved. So I thought the scenario was cool, even if it wasn't entirely like well developed. Like there's an evil. I thought in world it was explained relatively well. But yeah, so I mean, otherwise, but volume being low, I'm gonna be on the other side of 5. I'm gonna give it a 7. I do think the movie's a bit more obviously of a space opera than in End of the World, but I think there were a lot of timers in this movie. There's a lot of counting down. There's a lot of this hit the points for an End of the World movie, even though it was focused on the quest to stop it.
Yeah, fair enough. And I did notice there was no San Francisco Golden Gate Bridge getting fucked up.
There was the huge bridge in New York.
That was
400 like floors up in the air.
Oh, that's right. Well, yes. I mean, it was close. It's just without the Golden Gate Bridge getting fucked, or at least Statue of Liberty getting like decapitated. I would have accepted that, but that's also going to be a dock. But yeah, I mean that's our apocalymeters. How apocalypse was this movie, and now we're going to move into our movie meters. We've always separated our themes with how we think about this movie, and I think this will be interesting. Ryan, what do you think for your movie meter for Fifth Element?
The short answer is I don't know. I'm gonna try and talk myself into something. This is the hard part with this movie because I don't know how much I got it. Like I don't know whether or not what I got was what it was trying for me to get. So, and my gut feeling is rather low, but I didn't hate this movie. I didn't think it was a bad movie. So I don't think it should go under a 5. So those two in my brain is kind of hovering around the 5 or 6 range. My biggest problem is that I love sci-fi, and for this movie, it doesn't feel like it was made by someone who really loves sci-fi. Even though it might have been, it didn't feel that way to me. And the big pantheon for me, or not pantheon, but the big boy at the top is Blade Runner. And I didn't grow up on it, but it's a hugely formative movie for me. And this movie just kind of felt like a lesser Blade Runner. And this is going to also tick Chase off, but I don't like The Mummy with Brendan Fraser.
What the fuck, Ryan? Oh my god. I was gonna pitch a Mummy season.
And so this movie.
Wait. Why would it tick me off?
I thought you liked The Mummy.
I like The Mummy.
I liked the movie. I don't.
I thought you were like. I thought you felt.
I'm not a Mummy truther.
Oh, you think Jason seems like someone who would like The Mummy?
Yeah, because he likes this fucking movie.
I like The Mummy's a great film.
Okay,
I love Brendan Fraser.
Then it's gonna tick Dan Alley off. So this movie felt to Blade Runner what like The Mummy feels.
This
to
is
Indiana
like your
Jones.
Aragon to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Like The Mummy is to Indiana Jones in a similar way, where I just don't think it's a very good stab at the genre, and I think there's like a movie starring Harrison Ford that would be way better. And part of it is technical for me. I didn't like the lighting in this, and I understand that's part of the tone. They want to go for a light themed movie, but there's like Arnold Schwarzenegger movies that are fucking hilarious that are sci-fi, like Total Recall and Running Man and stuff, where, take a jab at that. Like, this movie wasn't nearly funny enough to be called itself a light movie. And it's totally all over the place. And from a technical perspective, I think the lighting wasn't great either. I didn't understand how these people could be in a tomb, but it was like sunny all the time. And even though it was a character who was supposed to provide them light, and that like was not their main form of light. During a lot of the action scenes, I felt like we were at, not only action scenes, but every scene, we were seeing the characters' fronts. But there's a lot of travel and a lot in an environment that we're not familiar with. And it's not like someone's walking on the street and they're brooding, so we need to look at their face. It's more just like a character's going somewhere, but it's an A-list actor like Bruce Willis, so we have to look at their face. And I had no idea where these people are going. Turn the camera around and show me their back. Like, show me where they're going and let me get a lay of the land, like during an action scene. And that really helps me out. I didn't get a lot of that here, so I felt like it was kind of glamifying it. When I see things like that, like really overexposed lighting and, shots of actors' faces in every single shot, I think it kind of shows a glamorous side of these movies that I think Hollywood indulges in way too much already. So there were parts I liked. There are some parts, the end I kind of liked more than the beginning. I think I'm going to go with a 5.
Okay, a 5. I mean, that's interesting, Ryan, what you mentioned about kind of the glamifying and how it's framed. I think part of that could come from the fact that like John Paul Gaultier, or I don't know how you say it, but like he did all the costuming in this movie. It very much seems like a French kind of like fashion week type of movie too, and maybe that was part of how it was for better or worse.
Yeah,
maybe how it was styled. Like,
I don't know. This is the first time we're mentioning this character, really, but I don't really understand Chris Tucker's character. I don't really like what he brought to the movie until he got pulled into the fish out of water stuff. Then he was fine, but I didn't really even understand what they were going for. And yeah, so I think that's a really good point. Maybe fashion-y, because there is like a character. There's literally multiple side characters too that are like connected with the fashion industry. So maybe that's something I don't really connect with.
Yeah. All right. Fair enough. A 5. I'm also very conflicted with my review of this movie because I did grow up with it. It was something that kind of shaped my childhood, and it was one of kind of the big movies for me that shaped my pantheon of great sci-fi movies that I grew up with. I've seen it a bunch of times. I haven't really seen it as an adult kind of until now, as we kind of mentioned before. I'll preface this by saying, like, if someone really loves this movie and holds on to it, that's like totally fine. This is going to be a very subjective review for me, just totally my reaction just from watching it just now. And like we discussed before, there was just like this huge aspect of the movie that was hard for me to overlook. I mean, there are aspects of this movie that are deeply problematic, which really, really sucks because I think there is so much to like about it otherwise. The aesthetics, like the music, the whole, like the plot is kind of cool. Like you have this kind of mystical sci-fi thing that's really unique. But some of those gross aspects, even divorced from, you know, what I know about Luc Besson, I think are just kind of hard for me to overlook. And when I see it in movies like this, I think maybe it's a product of the time. It's hard for me to enjoy. And kind of what I said before, like early on with our Armageddon, our Armageddon review, when I feel like a movie could negatively impact the culture, it's hard for me to give it like a higher score because I'm kind of thinking about like, oh, what did it contribute artistically? It may have contributed from an aesthetic standpoint, but is it kind of signing off on shitty things about masculinity and consent in women that I really don't like, that kind of gives me an ick factor, which unfortunately contributes to how I enjoy art. I kind of struggle with the aspect of like separating art from an artist. I don't really know if we should. I have such a personal relationship with like artists and art, just kind of like with how I view it. So sometimes it can be hard for me to separate. So because of that, my enjoyment was unfortunately kind of low, despite all the times like I laughed, I was kind of glued to the screen with the action scenes. I'm going to have to give it kind of a lower score. Like for me, it was around the 2 range for my enjoyment for this rewatch, which sucks.
That's really
I know this
surprising.
Yeah, and I surprised myself with that too, because I was horrified on the rewatch to realize that I wasn't enjoying it because of that. And that's totally fine because I know this is a cult movie. People still love it. People see people dress up as Leeloo for Halloween or the Diva. I think there are aspects to still look at and like about this movie, but for me, some of those things were just difficult to overcome. And with that, sorry, Jace just doesn't drop this fucking heavy ass thing. I feel like I should have went last to make you
Debbie Downer.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, go ahead. I mean,
yeah. Well, I think that's something we've definitely. I just want to point out there, if anybody's listening to it the first time, we're kind of separate in how we view things. Like, obviously, I think what the director did, it's horrific. It's terrible. I did not let it affect my viewing of the movie, but some of the things that you've told me are obviously going into my review of this. So I'm gonna give it like 3. I'm gonna give you guys 3 numbers here on top of my like hard score. But there's no right way to enjoy media, right? So if I can separate myself from the artist, maybe that's not a good thing. Maybe it's an okay thing. You understanding that it's done some shitty things and affecting the watch. You know, how we interact with the media it ends up shaping how we feel about it. And so to all our listeners, if that's how you feel about things, fuck yeah. Good.
Yeah.
I'm on the
fuck you.
Fuck you.
I'm on the opposite side, so my actual like finished the movie value is an 8. And I gave it that before we have this conversation because I do think that the goods for this movie for me, everything is like really tightly knit, tied together. It's a 2-hour movie, so there's a ton of detail. One of my favorite scenes is getting to the hotel where Corbin Dallas is in his apartment. The priest and Leeloo come to him, and they move the Corbin Dallas tag from his door to another door. And there's just everything in this movie is kind of summarized as chaotic. Like, Ryan, I don't think you like that tonally about this film, but I did. So we have four main entities that could probably really quickly solve a lot of these problems by talking to each other, but just like in the real world, they don't. The military regrew this supreme being who escapes from a building, who is now being chased by the police. The military could have told the police to not capture her as a criminal. Instead, she gets saved by Bruce Willis, who is an ex-military officer who knows the police. So it spins this complete web where, in the scene that I was discussing earlier, like, Zorg kidnaps who he thinks is Corbin Dallas so that he can attempt to he can make one of his aliens like morph into him and get on the ship.
Right.
Before this happens, the priest in Leeloo, the priest is acting like Corbin Dallas before Corbin Dallas actually shows up and like, oh, I sent him here to get on myself. And we get this funny, like, compartmentalized scene in New York where four people are trying to interact and be Corbin Dallas to further the plot to get these stones. And it's a chaotic mess, and nobody's working with each other. So there's no quick and easy way to get through it. And I think that the movie did that a lot. Like, we mentioned the smoking. He's like, oh, I'm trying to quit smoking. So the filter is 70% of the cigarette. And like, there's the art that the work that they put into building that scene in those set pieces. I think that went through. I think that moved in through the movie. I liked Ruby Rhod. I liked Chris Tucker's character. I think it's funny because, again, I think that the entirety of this movie is supposed to be a satire. And he's like a shitty Channel 5 news artist. He does exactly what we're doing. He's talking into the nether and screaming. And it just like, it comes in and it completely upsets the course of the movie. And I don't totally agree or understand why the horniness and like why it was so sex impacted. Besides the fact that it was addressed, the kiss while she was like, I saw that and I was like, oh, not okay. And then they maybe didn't do it enough service to say that was really wrong. That should not have been done. I recognize from the 90s, problematic movie. So I was going to take like my initial 8 was like, wow, that's problematic, but I hadn't thought through it. So like after you guys told me and we discussed some of these things and I see the Born Sexy Yesterday, and more of the problematic nature, it's like, I would say I'd bring it down to a 7 or a 6. So it's like in the moment, I'm like, oh, that's problematic. Enjoyment is like a soft 10, but then critically reviewing it, it's a bit lower. It's like a 6 or a 7. So, if this movie could be, slightly redone in a way that some of those problematic things are taken out, it's like a hard 10 for me.
Mm-hmm.
I loved it, but just like what we said at the outset of this podcast, divisive movie.
And that's totally fair, dude. And I appreciate like kind of the understanding with that too. Like, this movie, what sucks is like, I totally tonally vibe with this too. Mm-hmm. Like the humor for me was like totally working. Like I loved the Corbin confusion, like the kind of the Squidward moment where it's like, he's Squidward, he's fucking Squid. Like they didn't like, even just like the gags. Like I wish we would make more movies like that where it's just silly fun, even just for the sake of just like variety. Nowadays, I feel like so much of our sci-fi is like fucking serious as shit. Mm-hmm. And it's otherwise a really fun movie. I feel like that could be a sick takeaway from The Fifth Element. But right from the get-go, I feel like the three of us have completely different reactions to this movie.
This is weird.
Yeah.
Right? Like this one movie found a way to like kind of not divide us, but like find the differences between us. We all have different experiences. And I think this is something too, is like Denali has this really good way of bringing in the outside world and giving us context for where this movie lives. And maybe me, I don't really go into movies trying to like really enjoy them anymore.
Can we enjoy them after this podcast?
Jace does the exact opposite. Goes into movies really, trying to enjoy them. And I think that's what we learned about this podcast, like why it's lasted so long, is that we all do that differently. And this movie shows us is like a perfect example of why. I would like to point out that I really do like the genre. It's my favorite genre. And I
French movies.
What? No.
Horny French movies. It's right. Favorite genre.
like space operas and sci-fi, I really do love, and I don't read that many books of this genre, but I would recommend you guys check out an author named Jack McDevitt. He has written my 2 favorite space operas, and they're recommended to me by my friend Reed. And the first one is that I would recommend is Engines of God. It's more of like the lore theory about the end of the world. If you like that kind of stuff, I would totally check out Engines of God by Jack McDevitt. But there's another one who's kind of like a space cowboy, kind of like Corbin Dallas-y, and that one's called, I think, Talent for War. And I think those are both short series, but the first books are pretty much standalone. So I would totally recommend you check them out.
Just added it to my Goodreads.
No, yeah, I mean, and they're pretty short. You can go through them pretty quickly. But that's something too. Is I agree with Jace. Is that like, could you imagine if they redid this and kind of hit the right notes? I think it could be. Because that's one of my complaints with Blade Runner is like everything's so fucking. There's a 10-minute shot of like Harrison Ford crying in his apartment, like, it's come on. And so like this movie is the exact opposite of that. And I think if they kind of with the Blade Runner 2049 angle, if they redid this in some way or did a sequel or something, I think they could really pull it off. And,
we could probably, besides the director involved, we could probably master cut this to remove like 60, like 60 seconds of content. That would make it be like, oh,
yeah, just cut
that's
off.
a lot more palatable to the eyes of 2022.
We'll do a GBGB's cut. We've suggested this for multiple movies. We can do a fan cut of the Fifth Element, the better Fifth Element.
I do have. Yeah. This is the recommendation here. A joke that I'd never really understood in the movie before. If you watch the movie, watch it with subtitles. On the boat at the end, when Chris Tucker is just like doing his like super fast talking, describing everything that's going on in a scene. He points out like a movie star that's like deaf. And later on we get the payoff where Bruce Willis is like, throw me the gun.
Right.
Throw me the gun. And the guy's like, doesn't know what he like throws him to like
croquet
2 balls. Yeah. And it was like, I was like, oh, I never knew why he did that.
Funny. That was my favorite joke in the movie. It seemed like it was something out of like Austin Powers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, let us know what you guys think too, because I know this is a divisive movie with critics and audiences alike. I mean, you look up any review for this movie, it's either you love it or hate it. And I think the 3 of us are going to get heat in 3 different ways. So I think that's going to be cool. But yeah, let us know how you reacted to The Fifth Element. Did you like this movie? Did you like our review of it? But with that,
DK,
I mean, I think it's my pick.
It's your turn.
It is.
The next, we're going to spin that doomsday wheel and figure out which horseman we're going to have.
I'm not spinning the damn wheel.
We're watching a horse movie?
Oh, God.
End of the horse world?
Apocalypse. It's a virus that kills just horses. Yeah, I mean, we had the horsemen of the core. We had the horsemen of evil planets,
evil space,
space apocalypse, and now for the third horseman, which I think is going to be the horseman of the moon. I think, and
that's also space.
Are you gonna fucking make us watch Moonfall?
Listen. Moonfall is directed.
No, you're joking. You're joking. Dude, please tell me you're pulling a big joke because that looks like the worst movie ever made, dude. And I was like angry that I saw that it was made.
Okay, this is made by the king of apocalypse movies, okay? Roland Emmerich. All right, do you know what movies this fucking dude made?
Yeah, he made like
He made Moonfall. He made 2012. He made Stargate. He made Independence Day Resurgence and the original. This dude knows how to make apocalypse movies, and he made Moonfall.
No.
It's got an all-star cast.
No, it does not.
You're just doing this because it's
Patrick
free.
Wilson. You can't say it has an all-star cast and have Patrick Wilson be in the movie. Those things are 2 different Venn diagrams.
Listen, it has Donald Sutherland, John Bradley, Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, who we love. I think this is going to really nail it because we saw this week, which some people would consider a good movie. And I think it's time we plunge the depths.
We just watched The Core.
We watched The Core, and by all means, the reviews for this movie were also incredibly low.
Look, I haven't seen Moonfall. Have you guys seen Moonfall?
No.
Well, this would be a great opportunity Because I can't think of a more apocalyptic event than the fucking moon crashing in to our Earth, our home, our Gaia. So I say we watch Moonfall next week, and it's on HBO, so we don't have to spend any money for watching it. We don't have to give any more money.
I'm so upset. When I saw that movie, I was like, wow, good thing I'm not in college because nobody's going to drag me to the theater to watch this movie.
It was, I mean, I'll be real with you. It was between two movies for me. It was Moonfall or Geostorm. And I picked the one with the better trailer.
Oh, man.
Is Sharknado an End of the World movie?
I did look into Sharknado because Amber suggested it. It's end of LA. I mean, from my perspective, I guess it would be. Yeah, it would be effectively the end of the world. But we're watching Moonfall, guys. I'm excited. These guys are excited. It's going to be a great movie. Don't watch the trailer. There's a lot of spoilers, guys. I watched
Were there?
it.
I thought, I was kind of hoping the movie wouldn't,
I thought the spoiler in the trailer was the premise. Or is it not? Is it a
I thought they
big
threw
reveal?
us a whoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
Just let's watch the movie and we'll talk about it. If you guys haven't seen Moonfall, watch along with us.
So one thing, too, I want to say is that in order to keep morale up and to kind of get us through a 10-episode marathon, because we are a marathon podcast. Let's not fail to repeat that.
My morale's pretty high.
We can't just do 3 stinkers in a row from my perspective. Like,
whoa,
you gave this
buddy,
movie a 2.
buddy,
dude, you gave this movie a 2.
I don't know what I'm going to give the next one.
Also a 2.
Ryan, your pick is next. So
okay, so you're saying I have to pick a good movie, and also the freaking audience isn't gonna want to watch an episode about the movie Moonfall unless we really sell it,
and they don't know unless we listen. So, but I mean, there's no part of my will or being that's able to veto by the greater power his choice. So we have to watch Moonfall.
So the thing is like, remember when we started out with seasons with like 47 Ronin and the last thing he wanted?
Yeah.
I think those were poor choices.
They were good choices. Those seasons were huge. And this season's going to be huge like the moon. Mm-hmm. And this movie cost $146 million and made 67 back. All right?
It earned $67.
This movie was made to evade taxes. This is an IRS windfall.
So I'm excited. Join us next week. Thank you for joining us for the Fifth Element. Be sure to subscribe and write a review. I feel like we haven't said that in a while. To subscribe and write a review.
Up.
We haven't.
Oh yeah, because people don't do it.
Guys, we're fucking starving over here. We haven't gotten a review in like a year.
We'll read them on air.
I'll read anything. Yeah. I'll read anything on air. Review our podcast, guys, when these other podcasts are beating us, all right? And they suck. They only have like 1 guy or 2 guys.
Yeah.
We got 3 mouths to feed.
3 boys.
Okay, it's hard to get attention for 3 people.
And we all know the Denali's hungry.
Me hungry, guys. Thanks for watching and listening, I guess. Goodbye.
Yikes.